Hello, welcome to our RecapPlus channel. Today we will watch a recap movie is called Murder on the Orient Express, released in 2017. This is a spoiler content video. So please turn on the subtitle and let's start the story. The film starts in Jerusalem at the Wailing Wall during the 1930s. Popular Belgian analyst Hercule Poirot endeavors to work out who was behind the robbery of a strict remnant from a room where a cleric, a rabbi, and an imam were leading a gathering under the management of the chief of police. Poirot, who is demonstrated to be fastidious, verging on OCD about everything in his life being adjusted, as shown when he sends back 2 eggs he'd wanted to eat because they were various sizes, works out from a solitary break left on the divider that the guilty party was really the chief of police, as the strict figures, having humble existences, had not an obvious explanation to take the artifact and wore delicate shoes, not at all like the boss, who attempts to make a run for it yet falls flat. With the offender got and the artifact recuperated, Poirot anticipates his forthcoming occasion and having some time off from analyst work. Poirot gets a boat from Istanbul, where he makes the colleague of a governess Mary Debenham, while likewise on board is a youthful dark specialist named Arbuthnot. At the point when he arrives, he experiences his companion Book, who is currently the overseer of the renowned Orient Express. Be that as it may, soon after the two get reacquainted, a message shows up for Poirot from London. A case requests his prompt consideration. Poirot is miserable that his hotly anticipated break is being intruded on. However, Book offers to take him to France on the Orient Express. The outing will be 3 days in length, and Poirot agrees to at minimum having that long to unwind. Arriving at the train, Book is astonished to discover that every one of the compartments has been reserved, an exceptional event, but one of the travelers has neglected to show on schedule, so his ticket is relinquished. Likewise on board are a horde of different characters, as well as Debenham and Arbuthnot. There is an upsetting American by the name of Samuel Rachel, his valet Edward Masterman and secretary Hector McQueen, the Austrian professor Gerhard Hardman, American socialite Mrs. Hubbard, Italian vehicle sales rep Beniamino Marquez, the older Princess Dragomirov and her aide Hildegard Schmidt, troubled preacher Pilar Estravados, lastly the Count and Countess Andre. The main evening and day pass without an episode, although Poirot is put out at offering his space to McQueen. The following evening, Ratchet approaches Poirot and demands that he fill in as his guardian for the term of the outing, as he has been getting compromising letters and accepts that they're from his previous clients to whom he sold manufactured canvases. Poirot, who took a prompt aversion to Ratchet, denies on the premise he searches out lawbreakers and won't help them. Ratchet offers expanding measures of cash and even in a roundabout way undermines Poirot with a firearm, yet Poirot will not be purchased or scared and departs in disdain. That evening, Poirot, who was moved to Book's lodge, anticipates a decent night's rest, however tracks down it hard to find. First, there is a clamor appearing to come from the compartment close to his, yet when the conductor, who goes by the name of Pierre Michel, asks as to it, a voice answers that all is great. Poirot is likewise woken up by a chime and a thump, and during the unsettling influences, he detects a figure in a red kimono running down the lobby. In the interim, there is a torrential slide that leaves the train speechless, leaving everybody abandoned on the line. Poirot is tossed from his bed, where he spies Marquez getting spilled photographs. Since the express was relied upon to show up at their next station the next day, everybody should hang tight for a salvage group to be sent. Toward the beginning of the day, Poirot figures out that Ratchet has been killed in his bed during the evening, having been cut various times in an exemplary locked entryway secret. Book requests that Poirot explore the case. In any case, Poirot at first rejects. He should be on vacation, all things considered. Book entreats him to investigate the homicide, as the Yugoslav police will probably search for a substitute and may target Marquez or Arbuthnot. Confronted with this, an exasperated Poirot concurs. In the wake of affirming that nobody left or entered the carriage during the evening and that nobody is on the train that shouldn't be, Poirot realizes that any of the different travelers or guides could be the killer. He accepts Book as his partner. As Book was dozing in another carriage, he was unable to be the killer. An examination of the body shows that Ratchet was cut multiple times, but the injuries are not steady. While some are unquestionably deadly, others are shallow. This suggests that the killer was intoxicated. However, Ratchet was of good actual assembled, equipped, and right now careful, so it's impossible he was overwhelmed. Researching his room, they observe the compromising letters, as well as a to some degree, obliterated note associating Ratchet to the instance of Daisy Armstrong. Poirot recollects the case. Daisy Armstrong was a young lady who was captured and afterward killed regardless of the family paying the payoff, which made her mom Sonia go into untimely work, killing both her and her unborn kid, with Daisy's dad ending it all before long. Daisy's killer was a man summoned Lanfranco Cassetti, who got with the wrongdoing. and Poirot and Bouc before long find from the proof that Ratchet was Cassetti and whoever killed him probably had an association with that case. Some more proof is found. A blood-stained cloth with the underlying H and the button from a guide's uniform is found in Mrs. Hubbard's room. She had recently been asserting somebody was in her room. An examination of Michelle's uniform demonstrates every one of the buttons to be available, so an examination of everybody's baggage is led, except the Count and Countess as they have political invulnerability. The uniform doesn't appear, and Poirot concludes the offender is attempting to outmaneuver him when the kimono he recognized the earlier night is found in his bag. Mrs. Hubbard is subsequently betrayed, however, the injury is extremely minor, and she can't distinguish who made it happen. The uniform with the missing button is subsequently found on an upward rack, leaving that lead at an impasse. A salvage group shows up and begins liberating the Orient Express from the snow. Poirot and Bouc address McQueen and observe he had a rationale in the homicide as he had been skimming cash off Cassetti's records. They likewise observe an association with the Daisy Armstrong case. McQueen's dad had endeavored to indict Armstrong's nursemaid, making her end it all, with his vocation being obliterated when the reality of the situation was known. As his meetings and examinations continue, Poirot observes that large numbers of the travelers had an association with the Daisy Armstrong. Princess Dragomirov was Sonia Armstrong's guardian and companion to her mom, Linda Arden. Schmidt was Armstrong's cook. Arbuthnot was in the army with Daisy's dad. Marquez was the family's escort. Pilar was Daisy's nursemaid and had nodded off when the young lady was stealing. Debenham was Daisy's governess and Masterman was steward to the Armstrong family. The greatest association, in any case, is the Countess Andrenyi. She is Helena Goldenberg, Daisy's auntie. Despite this, Poirot finds himself incapable to limit who submitted the demonstration. While examining Debenham concerning the homicide, he is stood up to by Arbuthnot, who is additionally inferred to be Debenham's mysterious darling, who claims liability regarding the homicide. He endeavors to shoot Poirot, however misses and afterward escapes. Poirot understands that Arbuthnot never intended to kill him. Arbuthnot was a sharpshooter in the military and couldn't have ever missed his shot at such short proximity, and requests that every one of the suspects be collected, which they rapidly are, in the passage, for reasons unknown. Poirot uncovers that there are two potential answers for the homicide, and the first is straightforward yet improbable. Cassetti was killed by one of the numerous adversaries he obtained over the years as Ratchet, who got on board the train and afterward escaped after the homicide. The second is amazing yet fits the realities better. Everybody on board was engaged with the homicide. Poirot has found much more associations with the Daisy Armstrong case. Gerhard Hardman is really an American investigator called Cyrus who was enamored with the attendant dishonestly denounced, who ends up having been Michelle's sister, while Mrs. Hubbard is Linda Arden. He has contemplated that, so nobody individual would have been mindful. Every one of the speculates went into Cassetti's room and wounded him thusly as a type of execution. Nobody knows precisely who killed him. Arden concedes she was liable for, not entirely set in stone, to make Cassetti pay for how he treated her girl and granddaughter. Poirot lets Arden know that now he is the main individual who can uncover their plot and moves somebody to fire him, overlooking his weapon. Arden gets it, however, rather endeavors to fire herself, yet the firearm isn't stacked as Poirot simply needed to see what she would do. He looks as Arden implodes into tears. The train is uncovered and forges ahead with its way. Poirot concludes that there is no single equity in sight for this situation. Everybody on board has as of now experienced extraordinarily Cassetti's wrongdoing, while Cassetti himself was a malicious man who had pulled off murder and merited what befallen him. He takes note that this is one unevenness of allowing 12 individuals to pull off a murder that he should live with. At the point when the train arrives at the station, Poirot lets the police know that his first hypothesis is right. The killer was an adversary of Ratchet who has escaped. The police trust him, and the travelers forge ahead with their way. Poirot chooses to land the train now, anxious to at long last get some rest. Yet again, be that as it may, his standing has gone before him, and he is drawn closer by a courier as he is required in Egypt due to a passing on the Nile. Albeit tired, Poirot chooses to take the case, halting briefly to see the Orient Express vanish into the distance. To watch more video like this, click on the videos on your screen, and don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last I will say, stay safe and stay healthy. See you next videos.